Attention California housing providers and renters. A new 2024 ballot measure has the potential to completely destroy our rental market. If you're worried about skyrocketing rents and losing the last of your rights as a housing provider, you're going to want to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to explain what this ballot measure is, how it affects you, and why it matters to all renters and housing providers in California. So before we start, I'm Steve Welty, CEO of Good Life Property Management. We manage over 1,300 homes in San Diego and Orange County, California. Our mission is to make owning rental property easy. So let's jump into it. All right, so the ballot measure that will completely destroy this rental market, in my opinion, has a really nice name, actually. It's called the Justice for Renters Act. So the Justice for Renters Act might sound appealing to renters who are frustrated with rising costs, but it suggests that housing providers are committing an injustice by raising rents. Everything has gone up 25, 30+% in the last 5 years. You see, everyone's expenses are rising, and in a free market, people can charge for goods and services up to the point of what the market will bear. And unfortunately, free housing for all or justice for renters, this sounds a lot like socialism, and that system has not worked anywhere in the world. But the name aside, let me explain why this ballot measure will destroy the housing market, make rents higher for everyone, and reduce the quality of housing for all of us, and how it will affect our community. So let's start with the basics. The Justice for Renters Act would repeal an existing law called Costa Hawkins. This was a bipartisan bill that was passed in 1995 when, at the time, there was a housing crisis where rents were too high and there wasn't enough housing. So these two representatives from either side of the aisle, Democrat and Republican, got together and drafted a great bill that said, hey, we want to incentivize developers to continue to build properties in California. So we're going to say that any property built after 1995 will not be subject to rent control. This gave developers the confidence to build in California and charge market rents and earn a profit so that they could deliver their service to the community. The second thing Costa Hawkins did was it prevented state or local governments in California from passing rent control on homes or condos. That's right. You probably hear a lot about rent control these days in California, but most people don't realize that it doesn't apply to most houses and condos because of this Costa Hawkins Act. The idea here is they don't want to dissuade small housing providers, maybe they own a house or two, from being scared to put their property on the market because of overly complex rental legislation. All right, lastly, the biggest thing that this Costa Hawkins Act did was it permitted what's called vacancy decontrol. This is a word I had never heard of. But basically, it's the right of a housing provider to reset rent at market rate whenever a tenant moves out. They may be under rent control when the tenant lives there to they can only raise it so much while it's occupied, but anytime someone moves out, you can always reset the rent to market rate. If this ballot measure passes, this right could be taken away, which means that if you're behind market rate on your rental property, you will never be able to catch up if the government caps how much you can charge at a vacancy. So renters, why is this bad for you? If this bill passes and state and local governments can pass any type of rent control on any type of property as big as they can dream up, it's only going to make the market more unhealthy. Studies by Stanford and Harvard have confirmed that rent control has unintended consequences that actually makes rents go up, reduces the amount of quality housing that is available in the rental market, and has unintended consequences that hurts the renters that it's actually designed to protect. For property owners, the consequences are obvious. You wouldn't be able to raise rents at vacancy. You'd be under whatever strict rent control a local government could dream up. And you basically have no protection. It's the only thing standing in the way between the local government and you of whatever dream scenario they want to make up to turn essentially your property into the government's property. So there's been numerous attempts actually to overturn this bill, Costa Hawkins, and there's hundreds of millions of dollars going into this ballot measure on both sides of the aisle. They tried it in 2018 through Prop 10. It didn't pass. They tried it again in 2020 through Prop 21. Again, the voters rejected it, and now it's back in 2024 for another go. So this ongoing debate highlights the tension between tenant protections and encouraging housing development. So what can you do? Well, you can vote this November. And it's a vote really to say, do I think that this already unhealthy housing market, what it really needs is more regulation. I think more regulation is going to make the housing market more healthy. That's one side. Or if you're like me, you're going to say, the housing market in large part is unhealthy because of excess regulation. It's too difficult to build. It's too difficult to manage property with complex regulations. A lot of people choose not to. So what we need is actually less regulation, or at least don't take away a law that is actually preventing more regulation that we don't need. Well, what do you think about this proposed ballot measure? I appreciate you watching this video. We need to be engaged on these issues because they matter to the future of everyone in our community. So let me know in the comments below, and do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll keep you up to date on this ever-changing, crazy rental market here in California.